Charlie Smith, Jongbanji, Georgia Strait. I'm Charlie Smith, editor of the Georgia Strait. I'm very happy to be back for another week on WOW TV. One of our lead stories in this week's paper concerned a liquefied natural gas project in the Squamish area. There's been a lot of talk about liquefied natural gas in British Columbia. Most of the discussion is focused on the northwestern part of the province, Prince Rupert and Kitimat. But actually, it looks like the first project may get its final investment decision in the Squamish area. It's the former wood fiber pulp mill, and one of our reporters, Ing Weng Hung, was in Singapore, and he interviewed the CEO of Pacific Oil and Gas. And his name's Ratnesh Bedi, and he told Weng that the company is going to make its final investment decision later this year, which means construction could begin relatively soon and lead to a possible plant in time for the 2017 provincial election. But it's very controversial in the Squamish area. The wood fiber mill was shut down a while ago. It's an 86-hectare site. It was bought by the Singapore company, which is controlled by a billionaire in Indonesia. And so the residents there are wondering, well, what does this mean for employment? Are they going to bring a plant over from the Far East and just put it there? Or will there be construction jobs? What are the environmental effects? And also, how realistic is it to export natural gas, liquefied natural gas, to Asia when the world seems to have a surplus of natural gas in many parts, particularly in the United States? And that relates to this whole business of fracking and horizontal drilling, which is being used to extract a lot more fossil fuels from the ground than people thought previously were possible. And it's resulted in the United States becoming a major oil producer and a huge gas producer. There was actually a terminal being built in the southern United States that was going to be for importing liquefied natural gas, and then as the country began producing more and more natural gas, it was suddenly converted into an export terminal. So the Premier is pinning a lot of hopes on the export of liquefied natural gas for the future of the BC economy, but there are still questions about how much can be produced even in Russia or in China or in other parts of Asia as a result of the new techniques involving fracking and horizontal drilling. But this is a story we're going to watch. I think it's going to attract a lot of attention in the next couple of years, and it's just the first. There are also projects at least being discussed further up the coast. You've got Nexen, which was taken over by the Chinese state-owned oil company, looking at a project that could cost up to $20 billion. You've got Shell looking at something $15 to $20 billion. You've got Chevron and Apache working on a combination liquefied natural gas plant in Kitimat. And then you go to Prince Rupert, and you've got the BG Group in the UK looking at one that could be in the range of $11 billion. And then there's another plant that people are discussing, and that's Northwest LNG, also in Prince Rupert, 9 to 11 billion. So if you look at this project in Squamish, it's much smaller. It's only 1.7 billion. So that's one of the reasons it looks like it's getting out of the blocks a little more quickly. And speaking of large projects, another issue that is coming to the forefront in Vancouver is the Mayor, Gregor Robertson's effort to get a Broadway subway built. And he was meeting with the big city mayors in Ottawa late last month, and now he's trying to say that this Broadway subway is a project of national significance. And I think this is an effort by him to try to persuade the federal government to put in some money. It would cost approximately $3 billion to run a subway underground along Broadway. You've got the Broadway corridor. There's the commercial station, Commercial Broadway, which is at Commercial Drive, but you've also got the Millennium Line going down to VCC Clark. So the question is, would a Broadway subway start at VCC Clark, or would it even start at the Broadway commercial terminus and just go straight underground along Broadway from there? So this is something the mayor is pushing for, but what he's got a challenge on his hands is that municipal politicians in Surrey are very eager for their own rapid transit project. And they've been pushing for a light rail, street level system, similar to what you see in many cities in Europe or in Calgary. And this would cost $2.18 billion, and they'd get 3 lines for the cost of 1 in Vancouver. Those lines would start at Surrey Centre, and one would radiate over to Guildford going east. Another one would go south down to Newton along the King George Highway. And the third one would kind of go southeast to Langley Centre from the King George Station, which is a little bit further south of the Surrey Central Station. So you've got Surrey wanting rapid transit, largely represented by Conservative MPs in that part of the Lower Mainland. You've got Vancouver wanting a subway along Broadway, and Vancouver largely represented by Liberal and NDP MLAs. So I think the outcome of this will largely depend on the next federal election. If the Conservatives are re-elected, I would be betting on Surrey to get the transit system first. If the federal Liberals are elected, Vancouver may go up on the list. But the problem that the mayor has is that the provincial Liberals didn't do very well in Vancouver, and in the last election, they fared much better in Surrey. So you had the voters in Vancouver Point Grey rejecting Christy Clark. You had the voters in another riding in the city rejecting the health minister, Margaret McDermott, and voting for New Democrats. So still, I would say the odds-on favorite looks like Surrey, but the mayor is doing his best to try to advance the Broadway subway, so we'll see where that leads.